Okay, good afternoon. It's just about 2 o'clock. My name is Bruce Ramsey. I'm going to be presenting today on behalf of Viscor. Now, I know that there's going to be a few people that will be logging on as we continue to move through this process. But before I continue, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. You'll notice that there's a chat box on your screen. If you can hear me, if you don't mind just typing in a quick response just to confirm that you can hear the broadcast. Perfect, excellent, excellent. So again, my name is Bruce Ramsey. I'm here on behalf of Viscor Lighting. We are a lighting manufacturer out of Toronto. And I want to thank you guys all for taking the time to come and be a part of our presentation today. This presentation will be recorded, and the copy or a copy of this recording will be made available to all participants and all attendees tomorrow. Okay. I'm going to give a couple more minutes just to let some more people log on before I get started. But I'm basically going to do a quick intro to Viscor as a company, a little bit about our capabilities, and then I'm going to go into a medical specifier presentation where we're going to discuss our various solutions and how they can be applied to a medical space. More so looking at the application and less on the particular details of the product, but just so you can get a good idea of the breadth and how we service the healthcare space in general. Of course, we'll be taking any questions you guys might have. Feel free to submit a question in the questions box on the control panel, and I'll do my best to sort of address them either as I go or at the end of the presentation. All right, so I'll give it a couple more minutes, and then we'll get started. Okay, so I'm just going to hop right into it. We'll start off by talking a little bit about Viscor as a company. I think, I guess it's kind of hard not to talk about our current reality, dealing with, the coronavirus and the implications that we've all kind of been under of late. Hopefully everyone's staying safe, but we are a local manufacturer to the Toronto market. We've been around since 1952, and we're very fortunate to be in our position in that we are very much reliant on local suppliers, and we don't do offshore manufacturing. So as a result, we're still able to maintain operations. So we're still up and running. We're still able to meet our lead times, and that's challenging in this day and age. So we're fortunate to be in that position. We've got a very large facility in Toronto. As I mentioned before, we've been there for over 67 years. We've got a few different shifts, a large product family offering, but our platform is very much focused on manufacturing, the ability to build and create, customize and create completely new products from scratch. And as we go through the process, we talk about the fact that we don't just manufacture, we do a lot of design work, a lot of customization. We like to call it design to delivery. If you can sketch it, we can build it. So in many instances, there could be a few different applications where you have 90% of the job decided. You found your fixtures, you're happy with them, but there's a couple specific fixtures that you need for a unique space within an application, and you haven't been able to locate that. That's where we come in, right? We've got a full team of designers that develop fairly rapidly, some good quick prototyping and quick designs, and we're able to develop any of those designs straight to a concept within a very quick turnaround time. That's one of sort of our claim to fame. If you go to our website and you don't see it, don't be afraid to ask, because there's a good chance that we can do it. And that customization doesn't just include creating a new product from scratch, but it also allows us to alter different products as needed. A quick case study, we had a contractor come to us with a very large opportunity for an Amazon distribution center, and he needed lights for their picking aisles. And this is thousands and thousands of feet of lights, and he needed a custom solution. So we literally built him a custom 10-foot product that would cut his labor by a third and the amount of actual wiring required. We customized the amount of knockouts for hanging because he didn't know exactly where his hanging points would be. And we also customized a few knockouts for conduit because he wasn't sure where he's going to get his power. We created a fully custom product, brought it in under budget, and of course allowed him to get on the job site with a quick turnaround time. So this product technically could get stamped with his name on it because it was made just for his specific application. Very successful, so much so that Amazon is now looking for us to supply the same fixture for another facility, and I'm sure that business will continue to grow. Another quick case study is we look at this food service packaging facility, and they had a high bay order with a competitor. And it turns out they found out a week before the supply was supposed to arrive that there was going to be a significant delay, and they couldn't afford to have that delay. So they pretty much called us on a Saturday and said, listen, we need over 300 high bays. Can you get it here in 3 days? And we took the order on the Saturday, and we produced the fixtures Monday, Tuesday, and got them out the door in time to get on the job site. And that's the kind of flexibility you have when you have such a large facility and control over that facility, right? We could push a large order through quickly, and we can do tons of customization on our existing product line, and of course, creating completely custom product as well. We do all of our testing in-house, designing in-house, which makes it a lot easier for us to qualify for UL, DLC, things of that nature. It also allows us to provide very accurate IES files and readings whenever we do present that information to our customers, right? All of our IES files, all of our delivered lumens are delivered from the actual fixture, not from the boards per se, as some manufacturers may do. So a lot of accurate information, especially when it comes to looking at power distribution and consumption, things of that nature. And as I mentioned before, all of our products are customizable. So when I say if you look at our spec sheet and you don't see it, don't be afraid to ask. I mean, whether you want a different lumen package, potentially want a different size, maybe a different type of mounting, we have the ability to customize and to meet those needs as necessary. And controls integration is probably, outside of our manufacturing, probably one of our second most important facets to our business is we are controls agnostic, right? So we don't integrate any one particular brand. We're currently a part of the Leviton family, and we're very happy to be a part of that family, but they've allowed us to maintain our agnostic footprint. So in the event that you have a particular controls manufacturer that you have to work on with a particular job, we can support that. It doesn't matter, there's no limitations. Human-centric design is now a big part of the conversation in the lighting world. And for us, that's not just circadian rhythm, but it's very much personal control, different color spectrums, daylight harvesting, scheduling, vacancy, occupancy, pretty much integrations of all types of IoT technology into any of our fixtures. And we've got tons of experience. In many instances, we are the beta test for a lot of the controls manufacturers, and we get to see their controls firsthand, provide them with the feedback while they're developing, but also get our hands wet and get a better understanding of how to integrate that technology before it actually hits the marketplace. And of course, we do all of that in one facility, right? So all of our engineering, marketing, sales, technical support, production, assembly, all of that happens in one building. And the real advantage there is when questions are asked, when we need to get updates, we can always send an email, or we can just get up and walk and give you a quick answer and response. We've got two main brands, Visioneering and Certilux. Our Visioneering brand is specifically your commercial, industrial, architectural, and recreate. Oh, okay. Something, oh, looks like my application just crashed. Bear with me 1 second, please. Um, just waiting for this to open up again. I'm not sure what just happened, but the PowerPoint just closed unexpectedly. Okay, that is a bit concerning. It looks like that file is having a hard time opening. Let's see here. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we've got two main brands, Visioneering and Certalux. Our Visioneering brand is going to be your commercial, industrial, architectural, recreational, and retail application fixtures. You're looking at high bays, troffers, you're looking at linear architectural, and of course for industrial, you'll be looking at Vandal surface mounted and low bay as well. All right, our Certalux product line is going to be more for demanding applications like medical, vandal, and clean room. And of course, when we start talking about medical solutions, both of these brands interplay quite well within a medical space, right? And looking at a medical space, obviously the biggest challenge there is looking at the wide range of occupants, right? Your staff, your patients, and your visitors all have different needs. And finding balance to meet those needs is really where the challenge is. There's the simple, visual needs, but there's also, biological and emotional needs when we start talking about human-centric lighting, right? At a very simple level, doctors, patients, staff all require the basic function of light. But once you go beyond that and you think about the psychological environment, you've got doctors that are under a lot of stress, right? They're working long hours. You've got staff that are working long hours. So creating an atmosphere for relaxation and sort of aesthetic appeal is really important because they're in that same space on a regular basis. And then with patients and visitors, it's been shown that good lighting can positively impact healing and of course brighten the mood of somebody who may have anxiety for themselves or for their loved ones. If we're looking at some of the core values within the lighting arena, a big consideration is performance, but not performance, say, of the lights per se, but of the people who are occupying the space, right? You want your staff to be able to work as quickly as possible with the least amount of fatigue and distractions and the ability to actually function as necessary to reduce the potential of errors and mistakes, right? When you're thinking about light itself, your lighting needs to be low in energy consumption because obviously medical facilities require a lot of energy, need to be practical. You can't afford to spend a lot of time trying to get them to do their job, and easy maintenance, right? Want easy services for clean down, and of course, room side access for servicing if necessary, and of course, the long life LEDs that will allow you to go without having to service for a long period of time. LED lighting is the perfect solution. Of course, we love to integrate lighting into the space wherever possible, furniture, smaller footprint, because space is usually a paramount and, it's a resource that's not always available within a medical space or a medical facility, right? And cost savings is always paramount as well, right? You've got a lot of overhead with the cost for staff, maintaining the property, operating costs. So wherever you can save energy and maintenance with your lighting fixtures, it's always ideal. Looking at comfort, creating an atmosphere of relaxation, as mentioned before, is extremely important. And thinking about just something as simple as how attractive a space is. People often perceive that the more attractive a space is, the better care or the better quality of care they're going to receive. It also increases the potential that they're going to use that facility going forward, or of course recommend it to other people. So thinking about different color temperatures, thinking about designs, ability to control, all of these things impact their perception of how well that space will serve their needs and what quality care their family members and themselves will receive. I mentioned before circadian lighting, and this is a concept that most people are talking about on a regular basis now. It used to be more of a conversation. Now we're seeing more applications, but really this just speaks to using the sun's rhythms to sync our biological clock. It's something that's been happening, since the dawn of time, but we're frequently under artificial lights, right? So if we have the ability to mimic the impact that the sun has on our physiology while we're under artificial lights, then that increases our ability to rest at ease, releases our endorphins at the right place and the right time of the day to allow us to be alert when we need to be alert. And of course, when it's time for us to relax and go to sleep, our body will release melatonin and regulate our body temperature. And all of this is controlled by adjusting the color temperature of the lighting throughout the day and also the amount of output. But going outside of that, lighting for wellness isn't just circadian, right? It's pretty much any and everything that impacts the human condition. Glare control, right? Elimination of flicker, the ability to actually control the individual addressable lights to meet your specific needs, right? And within a health space, that's the biggest part of the conversation now is how can we create a healthy environment using lighting as well as all of our other considerations within that space. For our products, I'm going to show you a few different products, but I just want to give you some of the common features that you'll be able to expect in all of the products that I'm going to present to you. All right, so field serviceability is something that we pride ourselves in. All of our products, especially on the Cerlux line, are field serviceable. So obviously, we know with LED you're going to have a longer lifetime, but in the event that there are issues in the field, we have the ability to send you new boards, new drivers, new compartments, and of course you don't need to go into the plenum in order to access the fixture for servicing. You can do that with the room side. When we deal with prismatic lensing, it's always smooth side out. It seems like a very simple thing, but it's not always taken into consideration when people are producing these products. And obviously within a medical space, you want to have as smooth a surface as possible for cleaning. And also you don't want to incorporate any potential grooves where bacteria may compile. And of course, we use quality components. So we don't populate our own boards, but we do use name brand components. That way we know we can rely on their 5-year warranty, and we have our own 5-year warranty. So you're doubly protected. Antimicrobial paint. Antimicrobial paint obviously is a bigger discussion now when we're dealing with, the sort of heightened awareness around COVID and having surfaces that are as germ-free as possible. Antimicrobial paint is available as a standard feature on our medical fixtures, but also available as a standard option on all of our fixtures. So that's something that can be used in and out of any medical space as necessary, and it does inhibit the growth of bacteria on the surface of these products. 0-10 volt dimming is standard in all our products. And of course, because we do rely on quality manufacturers, there's a consistent quality in binning and CRI quality. So obviously with medical applications, 90 CR is often used. And we know that whether you order a board or a fixture for us this year, and you want to add 3 or 4 more fixtures a year from now, you're going to get the same quality and rendering across the board. Taking you through some hospital spaces, starting with entrances and lobbies. Entrances and lobbies often have a lot of natural life, a lot of decorative lighting and decorative architecture with a little bit of task lighting. So looking at some of the solutions, we can look for ambient solutions, we can look at suspended solutions, and then we can look at some of the co-solutions where you're just doing accent lighting. So in looking at ambient lighting, we've got a few different options. We've got some architectural troffers and some recessed linear that can be used in a few different ways. Our feature product for this space is our Quadra, which is a drop lens architectural 2x2, also available in 4x4. You can use a flush lens, a 1, 2, 3, or 4-inch drop. And this is often used at different depths. So you would use a 2-inch with a 4-inch, create a bit of a cluster, and that creates a nice visual appeal for a lobby space, right? Not really meant for task lighting, more of a decorative option. As we look at some of the suspended solutions, we've got a few different options there for bidirectional lighting. Our Elmez VL is a great option. It's available with row mounting or even just unique configurations where you can do L's, T's, square configurations. Available in downlight only, up and downlight, and comes with a nice clean micro groove. So again, very flexible in that you can have it as a standalone unit over a desk if necessary with bidirectional options, or you can have it in a more decorative light where you're doing a row or potentially a square or L or T configuration. And looking at our accent lighting, we've got a full line of linear products that can be used, like our LCOM N polycarbonate lens can be used in a space where may come in contact with some kind of physical abuse. It's a lot more, responsive and well built. Or we can also go with a standard strip that would go in a space where you wouldn't actually see the fixture itself, just to accent some of the architecture within a lobby space. Now, moving forward, if you take a look at a nurse's station, we've got a few different options there that would work well. Nurse's station now, consideration, you've got to look at your guests who are obviously going to be walking in and out throughout the day, but you've got nurses that are working 12-hour shifts. You need 24 hours of support, and they're also going to be working on monitors and doing simple diagnostic testing. So having light that is not just ambient, but very much task-oriented is really important, right? And of course, they're going to be there for longer periods of time, so having attractive lighting is also important to their psyche and their ability to, manage their job in a low stress environment as possible. We've got a full lineup of troffers available in a few different configurations, specifically highlighting our LRTC, which has a very shallow housing, really good for spots where the plenum is fairly, congested with potential duct work or things of that nature, and also has a very high cutoff, right? So you're going to get a wide range of illumination from this fixture. Quite a few of our fixtures are also available in 1x1, good for T-bar and good for hard ceilings. So we can maintain that same design, that same aesthetic, in just a smaller footprint over a potential workspace, for instance, for task lighting. As we move forward, my presentation is moving a little slow. We can take a look at waiting areas and corridors. In many instances, waiting areas ideally are being built around the exterior space in the sense that you have windows available to you, right? And whenever possible, if you do have windows, that's a great opportunity for us to incorporate daylight harvesting, right? So as mentioned before, we do a lot of integration into our fixtures, and the ability to put in daylight harvesting sensors is pretty much standard through all of our architectural fixtures, right? So then they can, of course, rely on the energy savings that you get with having, a balanced output that's consistent regardless of what the output is outside. And of course, when we talk about mood, someone's in a waiting room, they could be there for a few hours. If it is a day where you do have access to sunlight, but it happens to be dark and dingy or overcast, then of course your lighting is going to raise to the proper levels to ensure that you have the ability to maintain your foot candles within that space. Within the waiting areas, there's a few different options here. Our outline fixture is a good option. It's a very architectural sort of linear fixture. It looks very much like an architectural linear, available in this, what you see here, an O configuration, but also available in a single I, L, and that's often used as a way of imitating a recessed linear without having the installation challenges. We've got a few different options for corridors. Obviously, with corridors, they're very much the artery of a health space, so it's important that they provide the optimal amount of light to allow people to see where they're going and get from point A to point B. Our standard troughters are available in, like I mentioned, many of them 1x1, 2x2, 2x4, also 1x4. And then we've got a few recessed wall wash options that could be used in conjunction with downlights, like our LRWW, which would provide indirect light. Whenever possible within a hallway space, we want to be able to provide indirect light because you've got people who are walking through that space, people who are in wheelchairs, and people who are lying on gurneys. So their vantage point is going to be very different depending on your circumstances, and we want to create the least amount of potential for glare within a hallway as possible. We've got a wide range of options for stairwells, taking into different considerations for dimming protocols where occupancy and daylight may be involved. You want to have the ability to deliver the right amount of levels throughout the day, regardless of whether or not there's someone within the space, but also you want to have a very responsive sensor that would allow you to light the space before you get there as opposed to as you're getting there. Our L-Tri is a fantastic solution for that, which can be wall mounted or ceiling mounted, and the sensor is installed at an angle to guarantee optimal distribution of the sensor. It's ADA compliant, so it can be mounted at different heights depending on how it's needed, and also it comes with a polycarbonate impact resistant lens, right? So good for halls or potentially stairwells where you may have a little bit less surveillance and potential for some sort of impact. Moving out of waiting areas and moving into offices and meeting spaces. All right, so obviously with offices and meeting spaces, there's a very wide range of potential meetings that may be happening within a hospital space. Some of them may be sensitive, so the ability to dim or adjust the lighting to match the tone or the mood that's required is really important. We've got a wide offering of options, whether it's recessed ceiling or whether you have a suspended ceiling. Our ALRM is a great solution. It's your standard plank fixture, but it's available in a square aperture, also an oval aperture, available as a standalone unit or row mounting. And similar to our LMES VL, it's also available in configuration. So you could do a corner with it, you could do a square or rectangle configuration where you're butting units end to end. And this is also a bidirectional that has different distribution, right? So we have the ability to give you a different balance of uplight and downlight depending on what's required. It's also field adjustable as we use a tray for the uplight to determine exactly how much is provided above the fixture. Moving from there, if we take a look at examination rooms, now examination rooms differ depending on the requirements, right? In many instances, this is the first spot where a patient's going to be reviewed by a doctor or by a nurse after they've made it through the screening process. And some of these spaces are a little bit more stringent than others. Some of them just have standard troughers with antimicrobial paint. With our trougher family, you've got a few different options, right? You can go from our different architectural troughers as they are. You can add antimicrobial paint, or you could add a germ shield. And if that's not enough, you can also upgrade that to a wet location version of those troughers. So all of our standard troughers are available in a fully sealed, or at least sealed from the room, NSF certified wet location version that has a door frame. The really important thing about this is that you may have one type of trougher in the hallway. As you turn a corner and you move into this examination space, you can maintain the exact same look and aesthetic with a higher certification fixture, where you may want to have that wet location and that NSF if required. Same look, different architectural structure, but consistency can be maintained throughout the space. Now, as you move into patient rooms are probably one of the more dynamic spaces within the hospital, obviously because you've got patients that are going to be under different stages of duress. Some are there for a short period of time, some are there for a long period of time, and then you've got various visitors, whether they're family members, friends, and of course the staff that continuously moves in and out of the space. Wherever possible, it's ideal that natural light's available to help with the healing process. But as you know, hospitals are very large spaces, and you can't always guarantee that you're going to get a room that actually has a view. So wherever possible, if we can take into consideration more human-centric approaches to the artificial light that they're under, that can help speed up their recovery and of course create a faster turnover within the hospital itself. Obviously in this space as well, you're more inclined to use 90 CRI so that of course we can get the best skin color and the best tone rendering for the staff who are going to be observing the patients. And of course, integration of night lights into any of our standard patient room fixtures is available and an option, right? If we go through the full space, we have MD2, meaning 2-compartment fixtures. These fixtures have an exam portion and an ambient portion. Similar to that conversation about the wet location fixtures, is that these fixtures also maintain a similar design to our standard recessed troughters. So the ambient portion of these fixtures can reflect the same design of any of our standard troughters to maintain that same consistency within the patient space as you have within the hallway if you're using those troughters. These are also available with a full door. So again, for easy wipe down and cleaning and maintenance. And then we've got a few different versions of 2-compartment fixtures. This is our MD2, which is more so becoming more of a popular solution for patient room ceilings because of the linear nature, and of course because there's always the potential for obstruction. Whenever you have a patient bed with a lift that's directly over the bed, these are sold in pairs and they provide directional exam lighting and ambient lighting for the space. These can be used in conjunction with the bed light. And then if you want to move beyond that, there's your more traditional MD3 series that has a wall wash or reading light separate from your ambient and your exam. We have a new version, which is our MD3U, that is a 3-compartment or 3-level 2x2, which is, again, same design as our standard troughters, but also provides you a smaller footprint within that space. All of our medical fixtures, especially the patient-related fixtures, are available with low voltage controllers. We use Curbella standard. It easily integrates with any hospital pillow switch. And moving from that space, we can take a look at operating rooms. Okay. Oops, excuse me 1 second here. This presentation seems to be a bit glitchy. It just started over again. 1 second. Okay, let's try that again from operating rooms. Okay, looking at operating rooms. You know, when speaking to doctors and staff that work in the operating space, their biggest concern when it comes to lighting is getting that light that they need in the right space, right? And personal control is really important for them as well. The ability to control, brightness, dimming. They need the highest visual acuity as possible. And of course, there's a lot of equipment there. So the ability to provide EMI radio frequency filtering is really important. And of course, when it comes to looking at directional, having an asymmetric symmetric option is extremely important as well. You're going to want a toxic-free antimicrobial coating. You're going to want a sealed fixture that's going to be IP rated, and of course, the ability to integrate green LED. We were speaking a bit about human-centric design, and the reality is it doesn't just stop at the patient room. A lot of consultation prior to surgery is now happening within the surgical space. So I'm sure most of us have had some sort of surgical procedure, whether it's small or big, and usually, the person that wheels you in we'll check your name, date of birth, and they'll just confirm what procedure you're here for today, right? So are you here to operate on your knee? They'll make an X on your knee, then the anesthesiologist will come and have the same question, and you answer, and then they'll put their signature on your knee, and then the doctor comes. If you weren't nervous before that happened, you definitely probably would be nervous after having those conversations. So being able to control the lighting to positively impact the mood of the patient is really important. Now, you imagine if you had the ability to increase your lighting output and your color temperature to something nice and cool, that would help the cleaning process. So you can see every nook and cranny as you're sanitizing the space. But once you roll in your patient, now you're going to want to reduce your light output and drop to a warmer color temperature to help ease them. Once they fall under sedation, then you have the ability to turn on your green surgical lights and switch to something that's going to be more functional for the surgeons who may be potentially operating for hours. The green light will allow them obviously to go from the surgical lights in the middle of the space and look at the monitors without having any dilation in their pupils, and increases their response time while reducing stress. Thinking about zone 1 being right around the direct space where the operation is happening, our MD1U is a great solution. As mentioned before, the requirements: NSF, IP65, fully sealed enclosure, asymmetric symmetric throw, the ability to have EMI grid, meeting MIL standard, and of course RFI filtering. So this is a workhorse for us in the medical field, and also available with some different architectural aesthetics, but in this space, it's usually used as you see here. For other zones, for larger theaters, there's ability to use some of our wall wash. This is good for zones where you're going to have large theaters and you have staff who are moving things in and out of the space. You don't want any direct light sources to be in the field of view of the doctors if they look up. So indirect light, doing some wall grazing will allow those assistants and doctors and nurses to walk through the space, bringing in new resources without, having to impact the surgery itself. And of course, outside the space where they have their wash area in zone 3, any of our wet location troughers would be ideal solutions. In looking at burn units, burn units are a very particular space, right? Because obviously the biggest concern there is going to be the risk for infection, right? Risk of infection is probably the biggest issue with anyone that's suffering from major burns. And ideally, you want to be able to provide them with care and avoid interaction wherever possible, but they also require so much care. So the burn management team can be a fairly large set of people and staff that may potentially be moving in and out of that space, right? So wherever you can create a sterile environment, it's obviously optimal, right? So now we're looking again at antimicrobial paint options, IP rating, and even the idea of potentially integrating disinfectant light wherever possible, right? There's a few different stages through their process. The acute stage, which is the initial recovery process, where they're going to be the most susceptible. The rehabilitation stage can take, fairly long. And of course, reconstructive is just the process of, getting themselves back and into society. We've got a few different options depending on whether we're talking about the acute stage or going beyond that. But our CRU, similar to our MD1U, is a bit of a workhorse, which is intended for clean rooms, but still ideal for this type of space because you want to create a fully sealed environment. Again, it's going to be IP65, rated for ISO class 3 spaces. And of course, we talk about integrating technology. You can integrate red or amber LED here, wherever needed. And really that's usually used for more so just observing patients without interrupting their sleep cycle. It's triple gasketed. It's a universal housing, which of course means that it can be used for your T-bar ceilings and also used for your hard ceilings. And again, in hard ceiling situations, it's also provided with gasketing that allows you to seal the fixture to the room itself to give you that perfect seal to maintain pressure within that space. Once you're moving out from that initial acute stage and you're looking at potentially a longer stay, you can still move down to our MDU with the architectural design, which is a little bit more appealing, but still provides an IP65 rating and a fully sealed unit with antimicrobial options. Moving beyond burn units and taking a look at the NICU. Um, a lot more of the NICU focuses, of course, are going to be on having a lower ambient light, indirect light, whereas they use different light interventions on the pods themselves. You're not looking for the lighting in the space to do anything other than provide light for the parents that are there and the staff that need to interact with the space. You don't want any glare or anything that potentially impacts the infants themselves, right? So having directional light is really important, but also looking at nurses stations. So if you look at the picture here, a lot more nurses stations are being moved along the actual corridors where they can just stop in front of a computer, log in, do their charting, and move on, as opposed to having a central space. So this would be a good opportunity to use one of our one-by-one troffers with individual controls, so they can adjust the output and color temperature based on their mood and time of day, right? Because it could be the middle of the night or it could be first thing in the morning. So those instances would definitely require a different output and color temperature depending on how much natural light you had available. Quite a few different options here. We're currently redesigning our LRTS, which is an indirect troffer, something that we're hoping to release in the next quarter. But again, this is something that where the lighting itself is faced upwards towards the ceiling, and the reflector is going to push that light down. Perfect for a space like this where you don't want any direct light in the face of the children, but also available with a antimicrobial finish and a germ shield to ensure that it's easy to clean and doesn't promote the growth of any type of bacteria. Moving forward, we can take a look at labs and clean rooms, and slightly different than looking at the burn units, but similar considerations, as this could be labs for compounding. It could also be labs for analyzing samples. And depending on what the nature is of the subjects, there may be some light sensitivity where you may want to integrate different red or amber LEDs or even shields to kind of narrow the spectrum of the light that is being exposed to the space. Again, for this, our CRU is a good option. We show our SAF here, which is a bit of a tank, mainly because we do have some fairly robust offerings as well. Just to give you an idea that this is also available as a hazardous location fixture, right? Integrating red or amber as necessary, available with cold rolled steel or stainless steel or aluminum. And of course, even this unit, if it were to be installed into a clean room, we have options where you have rear access, and we've even been requested to do a through access where people access the plenum through the fixture itself. Triple gasketed, very much a tank for positively or negatively charged environments to ensure that nothing gets in and out of the space through the fixture. And moving forward from there, we take a look at behavioral health. All right, now behavioral health is, a big point of focus as we learn more and more about the impact of lighting on our mental condition. And really, what it comes down to is, you want to create a therapeutic space and kind of get rid of those connotations about what the behavioral space is like and create more of a positive experience. So better illuminated spaces with more architectural appeal wherever possible. And of course, consistent architectural design to the rest of the hospital, so you don't feel that you're in a completely different space. We look at the behavioral health space in a few different levels. If you look at it from level 1 to level 4, you're thinking about it from level 1 being a space where you're going to have complete observation. No one anticipates there to be any harm potential, to level 4, where there's going to be periodic observation and obviously a higher potential for a patient to harm themselves. As you move from level 1 to level 4, the design of the fixtures become a little bit less architectural and more institutional. Obviously, wherever possible, we want them to be architectural as necessary. Behavioral health level 1 is really considered where your staff will be occupying the space. Ideally there, you want to go with the architectural fixture because there's no risk, no need for there to be security or anti-ligature. But again, your staff and their personal mental health is going to be important as well. Level 2, this is where you're looking at corridors, counseling rooms. We have our LTDCR, which is a visioneering fixture, but the New York Office of Mental Health asked us if we could convert this to an anti-ligature function. So we changed our lens to a thicker polycarbonate convex lens. We added safety tamper-proof screws on the actual door itself, and this is currently under review. We've got a couple other products that have been approved for them for anti-ligature. All of our Vandal products come with security lenses and tamper-proof screws standard. As you move to level 3, more so day rooms and lounges, we have our VRIG 4104. Again, consistent with our other fixtures, you've got that same look and feel of our standard troffers, but now you've got that thick potential for exterior lens. All of our Vandal fixtures come with internal and external lens. The internal lens is for architectural design. The external lens is for impact resistance, right? So in some cases, tempered glass or polycarbonate, depending on what is applicable for that space. We don't mention anything about maximum or minimum security when we're dealing with Vandal fixtures, mainly because it's a highly specified fixture where it's important that the customer identify what gauge they want for the housing and for the door and what material. That can go anywhere from 20 gauge cold rolled steel, stainless steel, all the way down to 14 gauge, and in some instances 12. And of course, when it comes to the actual lensing as well, wide range of potential thicknesses and materials in combination for aesthetics and for impact resistance. And moving into behavioral healthcare level 4, really this is where you're looking at their potential rooms where there's the highest potential for self-harm. We've got a wide range of application options here as well. Our VRC is great for corner units. We've got hinge units that will not allow for any hinging or any ligature potential. And of course, we've got some units that have contraband trapping plates or backing plates. So often used in cells, or you feel that somebody may hide contraband. The back of the units are actually concaved so that anything that they try to hide between the surface and the fixture will actually fall into the back of the fixture and can only be retrieved if you physically remove the fixture from the surface. We have a VRS, which provides a widespread distribution for a small space that can give you both illumination vertically and on the walls as well. Thinking about the hospital space, IoT solutions are, a big part of the conversation that we have day in and day out. But of course, the idea now is that we're trying to use our lights for more than just lighting the space, for more than just the human advantage, but also for, a part of the whole building management infrastructure, right? The ability to supply, pre-installed lighting controls relieves financial and labor burdens, time burdens, and we can do all of that at our facility. But depending on what type of wireless control you go with, you now have the ability to quickly configure your space and get some input as to how that space is being used, right? You take, for instance, if you have a heat map, now these circles all represent fixtures that have independent controls in each one. Those occupancy controls have the ability to identify how frequently a space is being used. And with a building management system, now you have the ability to take a look at your space and say, well, how is my space utilization, right? Obviously, we're not getting a lot of space, a lot of usage of the space here. If this is a particular weight room and we're overcrowded here, maybe we need to change who's waiting in this room or what they're waiting here for and utilize this space as necessary. This data now allows us to better utilize our space and our energy and our efforts and identify how we need to adjust on the fly. Also, the ability to zone means that you can now group these fixtures as one room, control them with one function, and then ungroup them on the fly and group them with another set of fixtures so that they all operate on the same schedule. This is particularly good if you need to group, say for instance, a row of fixtures that happen to be on a side of the building that has a window and they all have daylight harvesting. So you may want to group them as one so that they're consistently maintaining the same levels throughout the day. Similarly, asset tracking is a big part of that conversation. You imagine, you go into the ER or, you're waiting for a doctor. We're often told, yep, a doctor's on the way, they'll be here, but no one really has an idea of how long it's going to take that doctor to make their rounds before they make it down. Now, with asset tracking, you actually have the ability to use your lighting, or at least use the controls within your lighting to identify where that doctor may be. And more practically, attaching these asset tags to items that may potentially walk up and leave the building is extremely useful. You imagine how effective it would be on tracking where wheelchairs end up. Wheelchairs always end up leaving the building and being left somewhere in the parking lot. And now you can use the same technology to set a fence where anytime a wheelchair goes beyond a certain border, an activation of an alarm would sound or would alert someone as to where it left, and they'd be able to retrieve that quickly without having to worry about, where it is and how it got there. And the last thing that I have to discuss, or just kind of go through, is just a quick case study, just to show how we're able to kind of combine and bring all of our capabilities and our product offering together. Bridgepoint Hospital is a hospital here in Toronto, just east of our facility. And we were doing quite a large job with our agent at the time, doing patient rooms, doing hallways, doing some of their laboratories. But our agent was going through the process and realized they needed some exterior lighting that, they had no way of supplying. And we don't specialize in exterior lighting. All of our products are interior, but our ability to customize allowed us to come up with some unique designs that would allow them to incorporate some CCTV cameras into these pillars for external lighting. Now, obviously, for us to do something so customized, it's a lot easier considering the fact that we had such a large opportunity within the space, but we're able to kind of win this job for our agent in that we provided all of the necessary components for the internal process and also these unique fixtures outside. And you can see this is the actual space here that has the units both with and without the camera, right? So it speaks to our ability to really create custom solutions to meet the particular challenge of that space and kind of complete a package. This being, of course, a hospital that's not too far from our facility. So with that being said, I think I've managed to squeeze all that in under an hour. That is just a brief look at some of our solutions. But if I leave you with anything, I would say this. We are a very responsive and flexible manufacturer, right? There's very few things that we see that we're not capable of doing. It's just a matter of getting the opportunity to work and provide a solution for a space. So more so than providing products, we like to look at it as how can we best serve the opportunity and provide something that will answer the requirements as necessary. So with that being said, I don't know if anyone has any questions. Feel free to type them in. I'm not sure if there's a way for you to vocalize them. And if there are none, then I just want to say thank you guys very much for taking the time. I apologize for the few technical hiccups. Apparently my PowerPoint wanted to give me a bit of a run for my money today, but I hope you found this to be helpful. And of course, you can speak to your agent who will be able to provide you with more information on how we can provide some solutions for your spaces. Oh, actually, I think I just noticed there is one question here. Someone asked if we've seen an uptick in medical lighting requests. If yes, what products? So in reality, what we're seeing is a lot of inquiry about antimicrobial and any type of disinfectant solutions. Most of the requests that we're getting are for patient rooms and looking at some of the linear product that's going to be have a smaller footprint, but has the ability to integrate a few different lighting technologies in the fixtures themselves, and of course have an antimicrobial finish. But uh, our business has been pretty consistent. What people are looking for right now is just a lot of education on what antimicrobial opportunities are out there. That's what I'm seeing more of than anything else. Were there any other questions? Okay. Well, again, thank you guys very much. I'm sure anyone at Western will be able to answer any additional questions that you guys have. And stay safe.